Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to another video. Today we are doing a create-a-sim for the Disney save, and we are going to be making none other than Gaston and Le Fou, both very infamous characters in Disney lore. So let's get straight into it. First we are starting out with Gaston. His last name in the Disney save is going to be Legume, and that's actually in reference to a original script for the movie where his last name was Legume and his first name was Gaston. It was later removed and his last name technically is Gaston, and you can tell that by the way that some of the other characters in the movie refer to him. However, for the sake of the Disney save, we are just going to go with his first name being Gaston, as that is the way that a lot of people think of him as anyway. His aspiration is that he would like a successful lineage. I feel like that's really appropriate for him, and his depiction in the movie is that he wants like a perfect wife, he wants to have children, and I feel like there would be expectations for those children to be as good as he thinks of himself as. So perfect, kind of good looking, really smart, probably in the military, and really active and popular in the village. And I feel like he would be one of those like parents that just expects a lot from their future lineage, even though he probably doesn't want to put a ton of the work in himself anyway to help them be successful. He would probably expect his wife to do it, or they would sort of be just born naturally gifted of all these things, which could be true to a certain degree, especially with how popular Gaston is in the village. I feel like his future children would be sort of idolized in that very same way. Traits: he is a self-assured, loves the outdoors, self-absorbed. Him, all of them seem like they are super appropriate. He does not currently have a spouse because Belle would be the only suitable candidate as a wife in Gaston's eyes, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have a lot of girls jumping at the chance to be with him. However, nothing serious or long-term is ever going to come from those relationships because it's just not what Gaston really wants. Gaston is the most handsome, popular man in the village. Every girl wants to marry him. Every guy wishes they could be him. He's a decorated war hero with a huge ego to match. Nothing is good enough for him except for Belle. He is completely obsessed with her, and he believes she will one day see that he is the best match for her. He wants a perfect trophy wife and perfect trophy children to carry on his name. He views himself as perfect and therefore the only match for Belle. He believes women have only one place in the world, and it's to serve perfect men like himself. That aside, Gaston can be found in the village tavern, charming the ladies and enjoying being the center of attention. He also enjoys hunting, sometimes in very unethical ways, the outdoors, staying in tip-top physical shape, and marksmanship. As far as his career goes, he is in the military. He's probably pretty high ranking in the military with all of his awards and trophies, which if you saw his cottage build, I did a little piece over the mantle where I put up a lot of the military items from Strangerville, implying that they were in reference to him. If you missed that, check it out down below. I did Gaston's tavern as well as a cottage for him, and this is sort of the third part to that entire thing. The playlist is linked down in my description box below. He does spend a lot of time at Gaston's tavern, however he does not own it. It was more so built in his honor by a lot of the other members of the village, or that they sort of already had the tavern and then they themed it after Gaston because they're so obsessed with him and they love him so much. Hobbies: he loves hunting, outdoor activities, bar fighting, working out, and marksmanship. And I'm hoping the game sort of updates over time and adds some other things such as archery would be a great thing that I feel like Gaston could really get into, and some more outdoor activities like that aren't necessarily sports, although like archery, yes, could be a sport, but that kind of a thing. For his hidden trait, Gaston is inhumanly strong. He works hard to maintain his physical condition, but it still seems like he has strength beyond the typical realm of human capacity. This is a huge issue for anyone that might get into a disagreement with him late at night in the local tavern. As a result, people do not typically disagree with him. So he is sort of idolized in the village. He does have some fame within the town, especially, so a very popular reputation. He pretty much knows everybody knows him, and he likes it that way. He loves living in all of the glory of just being a part of the village and being sort of idolized by most of the village, and he wouldn't have it any other way. He probably would harm or get rid of anybody who would object to that, as we sort of saw in the movie, where Belle very clearly does not feel like, one, that she's in love with him, and two, that a certain type of way about him, that she thinks that he is arrogant, that he is just not everything that the villagers say that he is. And he definitely rejected that right away, and you could see a very evil side to him where he wanted to get rid of her. So he's not inherently evil the way that some of the other villain characters of the Disney save are. He's more just egotistical and very self-driven, so anything that affects him directly, versus some of the other villain characters that want to like rule the world or have like a big worldly change. He's not necessarily like that. He just wants things that are best for him. As far as his outfits go, obviously it was pretty straightforward. Sticking with red, it's a very regal color. It's sort of a rich color. You really only get one or two outfits from the movies that sort of depict what he would wear on a typical daily. There is one full body outfit from Get Famous that works super well for him, and I obviously had to use that as his everyday wear. And then everything else is just pieced together per the time period and trying to incorporate red and some more of the older style clothing. Summer wear tends to be like the hardest thing to do, because I feel like even during the summertime, a lot of these characters for their time period would still be wearing quite a bit of clothing. They wouldn't like necessarily change it at all. So that's always a little bit of a struggle, but I think I managed to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. Now moving on to Le Fou. So Le Fou was definitely tricky right off the bat. We run into a little bit of an issue that his character design in the animated version is not going to be the easiest thing to accomplish in The Sims. He has like this very unrealistic facial proportion and body proportion that is almost impossible to replicate, whereas Gaston is a lot easier to take reference from. Le Fou just isn't. So I ended up turning to the live action movie for reference a little bit more, and basing most of his facial features and his body proportions after Josh Gad, who plays him in the live action movie. And I've also named him Le Fou Gad in his honor. So he is more in reference to the live action version. I did try to incorporate a couple of things that were more towards the animated, like the big rounded nose, but in general I was really just trying to stick with what Josh looked like and go with like his hair shape, his hair color, his eye color from the movie. So hopefully you guys all sort of agree with that decision, but I felt like it was the best way to get across the character without him looking absolutely crazy. I feel like this was probably the best choice. His aspiration is that he would like to be a joke star. Traits are goofball, clumsy, and cheerful. I really felt like it was important to give him something to do outside of being obsessed with Gaston and helping him all the time. And entertainment, the arts, music, that kind of alley seemed to be the really natural choice to put him in, especially if you're thinking about Josh Gad, who is on Broadway or used to work on Broadway and is also the voice of Olaf. I really tend to think of music, and his performance in the live action is probably one of the better ones of the movie. So I was initially, I think, going towards music a little bit more, but a lot of you and my patrons had recommended to go with joke star and kind of make him the little town entertainer, and I totally agree. I think that that might be a really appropriate way to go with it. So he is going to be a joke star. He's going to be into comedy. He sort of performs for the town, and his status in the save is that he is pursuing comedy and slowly becoming more than a shadow of Gaston. So he's kind of sort of leaving the shadow area, but he's not fully like out by himself yet. People are kind of confused. Le Fou lives to please others, mostly for Gaston, but he's also taken an interest in comedy and becoming an entertainer. He lives in Gaston's house and takes care of most necessities, including cooking, cleaning, laundry, gardening, and more. Because of this, he's actually a very well-rounded individual. Gaston takes Le Fou's kindness for granted, but Le Fou is so cheerful and easygoing he doesn't seem to mind. He wants to be just like Gaston, so what better way to learn from close observation? Even if he ever had a disagreement with Gaston, he would never say it out loud. But he's the first to protect and combat anyone who voices a negative opinion about his dear, dear friend. Outside of serving Gaston, he enjoys beer, good food, and late nights at the local tavern. He is also a part of the Gaston Fangirl Society, which was one of the clubs that was created for the Bimbettes, and some of the other villagers are going to be a part of that as well. He is also a part of it, and probably one of the only male characters. His job is entertainer, comedian branch. He does live in Gaston's cottage with him. Hobbies: gardening, farming, cleaning, cooking, drinking, singing, dancing, writing, comedy, skits. So he's very well-rounded, very high stats, knows how to do pretty much everything, like a very well-rounded individual. For his hidden trait, Le Fou is really unnoticed by most of the village. He is very overshadowed by Gaston and doesn't have many opportunities to shine. But he has a gift for making other people laugh. He writes comedy bits that he would love to professionally perform and be an entertainer someday. It's a combination of song, dance, and comedy. It's slowly becoming very popular with those who have the opportunity to see him perform. So that is going to be our two characters today, Gaston and Le Fou. I hope you guys enjoyed them. If you would like to support the Disney Save on Patreon, it is linked down below as well as at the end of the video. Let me know what you guys thought, and thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Hit that little bell icon below to turn on post notifications so you can get updated every single time I post, and I will talk to you all in the next one.